A couple of days ago, I achieved a life ambition of riding the Cape Town cycle tour. And I've just gone into Strava here to show you the ride. And what we can do a very detailed run through on Strava using their very clever little play features. So here we go. So the ride started in the centre of Cape Town here. My start time was 7:30 in the morning, and the first thing we did was ride up Nelson Mandela Drive, and it was quite a climb out of town, but the scenery was absolutely fantastic. As you can see, there's Table Mountain in the background there. Very early morning. I think there were 35,000 cyclists riding with me, and then we came down the other side of the climb, and then we started another little climb through a residential area, and that was quite tough actually, but there were crowds along the road that really kind of were quite an eye-opener for me. I didn't realise that there were going to be quite so many people there cheering us all along, and that was a pretty special feeling, I can tell you. And we're still sort of cycling through this residential area here just outside of Cape Town. Well, let's scroll along a bit more, and oh no, there's the climb there that I was talking about. So we came around there, and we'd driven this the day before in a bus. We did a bus tour, so I had a rough idea of what was involved in it, and it was yeah, quite surprising how steep the climbs were. So yeah, that was a bit of an eye-opener, and I was a little bit nervous and a little bit intimidated, if I was to be honest, but we managed to get it done. And then we started out, I think we're kind of on the motorway here. There's like a motorway just outside of Cape Town, and this was more or less downhill, so it was pretty fast. And I was riding with one of my subscribers, a chap called Carl, who very kindly came out to meet me. He cycled 30 kilometers to the start of the race, and then cycled 30 kilometers home afterwards as well. So he put in about 170 kilometers that day. And here we are. We've just turned off the motorway, and this right-hand turn here was like something out of the Tour de France. It was absolutely incredible. And here we are heading through these kind of little villages, and at this point the headwind was absolutely horrendous. Cape Town's very well known for having windy conditions, and it's usually coming from the southeast, and this is basically heading right into that. And here we've hit the coast, and it's the town of Muizenberg, and that was pretty special as well. The crowds came out there in force, and again, it was just an absolutely amazing experience. The little towns along here aren't very big. They're typical kind of seaside-y towns, and really kind of welcoming and picturesque in a kind of colonial way. They reminded me a little bit of some of the towns near me, but obviously they're in South Africa, so they do have that kind of different architecture and things like that. Now we're sort of cruising along the coast, these little kind of coastal towns. Along here, the water and the beaches looked absolutely incredible. The blue of the water was amazing. It kind of made you think that it was going to be nice and warm, but I didn't dip my toes in or anything at any point during my stay in South Africa. But I was reliably informed that the water is pretty cold, because that's the South Atlantic there, and there's not much between Antarctica and South America, so it's pretty cold. So here we are, still going through these little coastal towns, but the road is starting to climb up a little bit, and it was getting a little bit tough at this point. I think I put in about, this was kind of the 40 kilometer point, and I was desperate for the wind to change. Carl was saying that once we got to the southern point, the wind would or we would turn, so that we would have a tailwind behind us, and I was very, very much looking forward to that. But so we started the climb here, and it was pretty slow going for me, as the climb was quite long. It was kind of 2.5 kilometers long. It's just climbing up the side of this mountain. But once we got over that, apparently that's the point where the wind would turn. And here's the turning point here. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see that it is exactly that. So this bit here was a descent, and it was a straight, fast descent through what I can only describe as kind of a lunar landscape. Very kind of barren, sandy. It's the Table Mountain National Park, apparently, so I believe. And this was very, very fast, and it was amazing just riding on closed roads, because you could take both sides of the road, take the racing line, and you felt like an absolute pro cyclist. There weren't many people at this point cheering us on, because it is a little bit remote, I think. A couple of little villages, well, basically weren't even villages, they were just a couple of settlements there. And then we turned again, started climbing over another little ridge, heading inland a bit more this time. And this is, I believe, what they called Misty Cliffs. And again, this was another incredibly fast part of the course. Very picturesque here, riding by the side of the sea. Again, the views were just amazing. Water looked incredibly blue, fantastic, absolutely gorgeous. So we're motoring along here, and then we will start to head inland again. So let me just bring that up a bit more. So this is us heading inland. This was another little bit of a climb, and we turned right, another slight descent into a little township here, or a town. I think a township's something different in South Africa. It's a little town, and again we had people out cheering us along, sort of lifting our spirits and stuff. This is probably about 70 kilometers in now, so the fatigue, I'm still feeling pretty good. But obviously after 70 kilometers, and probably off the top of my head, I probably had about 900 meters of climbing in my legs at this point. We make another left-hand turn here through this town. Can't even remember what the town's called. Out to the coast again. So and this is Nordhoek, and we'd ridden out to Nordhoek a couple of days earlier, so I kind of knew what was in store. And this is now the climb up Chapman's Peak. I'd refueled here. There was like a water stop, and I refilled my water bottle, and now I'm climbing the very famous Chapman's Peak, which actually has a descent in it. Apparently it's Little Chappies, and here we are riding along the coast road. As you can see, it just clings to the cliffs here. Absolutely incredible, amazing scenery along this way. Very fast descent normally, but on Sunday it was very, very windy, so we couldn't quite just let the bikes go and get that lovely descent. We were still having to work a little bit hard to do this descent. Oh, let me come around a bit more, zoom out a little bit. Yep. Zooming down here, down Chapman's, and this is the end of Chapman's Peak, just coming into Hout Bay now. And we turned here. You see it's, whoop. And this is actually cycling through the town of Hout Bay. This was quite a little bit of a climb. About 7% this was, and then we are approaching the infamous Suckerboise here. This is us going up Suckerboise, which is the very last climb of the day. With 90 kilometers in your legs, it's very, very hard. But you know that once you've got to the top of Suckerboise, you've got 15 kilometers to go, and it's all kind of downhill, more or less. Again, along this coast road, the scenery is absolutely stunning. And here we have the 12 Apostles, the cliffs, the very famous cliffs. I'm just motoring along, descending slightly. Again, the wind was slightly against us, even though we were heading northeast or northwest, and in theory the wind should have been behind us. Still an amazing descent, still an amazing view. We're entering the kind of the coastal kind of resort towns now. I think this is Llandudno, Backoven and places like that. Just cruising along. And there is a slight climb as we come into just leaving Hout, sorry, not Hout Bay, but one of these little towns. I think this is the climb just coming up here. And just entering the southern suburbs. This is Sea Point now, and we've hit the coast, so we've got very, very few kilometers to go now, probably like 3 or 4. And here we are approaching the finish line in Greenpoint in Cape Town itself. And there we go, there's the finish line. I'm motoring along, crowds are going wild, closed roads, and I crossed the finish line there with a finishing time of 5 hours 11 minutes. I was absolutely ecstatic with that. I would have liked to have ridden under 4 hours. I was only 12 minutes out. But I was really, really pleased with that, with an average speed of something like 20.17 kilometers an hour. And for me, on those climbs, that's absolutely amazing. About a month before I rode this, I tried a test ride, riding 120 kilometers here in the UK with 1,200 meters of climbing, so a very, very similar number. And that took me 6.5 hours, so an hour and a half less. I was so pleased. Now, if you'd like to see the actual video of the ride that I did that day, I will be publishing that. So all you need to do is click on the video just appearing on screen now, and there you can go and watch the actual ride of me riding the Cape Town Cycle Tour 2024.